Hey guys, my name is Rachel and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. So the case that we are going to be going over today is one of those cases that I very well think could have been solved if the right steps were taken, and I feel like in this investigation there were a lot of missteps, and I feel like the police had sort of a tunnel vision, and I feel like a lot of the evidence does point to one specific thing. Now, a lot of people might disagree with me. A lot of people have their own theories on what could have happened, but in my opinion, I think that the police were kind of looking in the wrong direction. I just feel like if the police would have done a couple things differently, that this case very well could be solved right now, and we wouldn't be sitting here talking about what the possibilities are or what could have happened to this little baby. So with that being said, today we are going to be talking about the unsolved disappearance of Lisa Irwin. Lisa Irwin was born November 11th, 2010 in Kansas City, Missouri to parents Deborah Bradley and Jeremy Irwin. Lisa had two older brothers, one of which was from her mother's previous relationship and one was from her father's previous relationship. Their family seemed to be the very typical American family. They were excited to have their first daughter when they found out that Deborah was pregnant, and they even named her after Deborah's mother. She had beautiful blue eyes and golden blonde hair that looked auburn in the sunlight, and her favorite show was Barney, and she had a cute little nickname, Pumpkin Pie. Baby Lisa was an eater. She would eat any foods, but she especially loved bananas, and she just seemed to be like a very bright light in her parents' lives, and they absolutely adore her.
Good girl. Pumpkin. Is that good? Is that good? You dancing? Dance.
They described Lisa as a very confident baby who isn't shy and is fine going off with strangers. So Lisa's dad, Jeremy, worked as an electrician and had a lot of just like random hours. Sometimes he'd be done early and sometimes he ended up working into the late hours of the night. So on October 3rd, 2011, Jeremy ended up getting home from work pretty early, around 2 p.m. that day. He came home and ate lunch with his children. At around 4:30 p.m., Debbie and her brother went to the store, bought some baby food, baby wipes, and a box of wine while Jeremy stayed home with the kids. So they got home, brought everything into the house, and Debbie's brother left at around 5:30. That night was pretty normal. Debbie made dinner for the family as she always did. However, that night Jeremy actually had to go back to work for a night shift, which kind of irritated them a little bit. Debbie didn't really want to be by herself at home all night, but this was something that was relatively typical with his crazy hours that he worked, and he was going to get a little bit of overtime for this shift, so he just went for it, and a little bit of extra money wouldn't hurt. So after Jeremy left for his night shift, Debbie put Lisa to bed in her crib and invited over one of her neighbors to hang out, just so she had someone to kind of keep her company while her husband was out working all night. With Lisa in her room in her crib, her two other children were, sitting and watching a movie. Her and the neighbor poured themselves a couple glasses of wine and went out and sat on the front porch just to chill and relax at the end of the night while the kids stayed inside and did their thing. But according to Debbie, she did go in and check on her kids periodically throughout the night. At around 6:40 p.m., Debbie said that she did go in and check on Lisa and she was fine, just sleeping in her crib. At around 10 p.m., the boys were starting to get tired and wanted to go to bed, so the neighbor went home and Debbie went inside to get the boys ready for bed. The boys went to bed at around 10:30, and then around 10:40 she went in and checked on Lisa, who was still in her crib sleeping soundly. So then, after this, Debbie put herself to bed. Now, Jeremy didn't end up getting home from his night shift until around 4 a.m. the morning of Tuesday, October 4th. When he got home, the first thing he noticed was that the door was unlocked. Now, this kind of set off a red flag for him a little bit, but he wasn't in any sort of panic at this point because, it's understandable. Debbie could have just forgotten to lock the door or something like that. So he did decide to just go inside the house, didn't think much of it, but then he noticed that many of the lights were still on in the house and a couple of the windows were still open. So it's almost as if Debbie had never, gone around and shut down the house for the night. She left everything on, all the windows open, so that was a little bit weird to him. So he did decide to go in and just check on Debbie, make sure she was okay, and she was sound asleep in her bed along with one of her sons who had crawled into bed with her. He then went to check in the boys' room and their other son was sound asleep on his bed. Then he went to go check on Lisa, only to discover that she actually was not in her bed. Of course, at this point, he was in a complete full-on panic mode and ran into Debbie's room, woke her up in a complete frenzy and was asking her, where is Lisa? What happened to her? And, he was saying she wasn't in her crib, things like that. And, Debbie, who put her to bed a few hours earlier, was like, I don't know, I put her in her crib. So at this point, they had absolutely no idea what could have happened to Debbie, so the whole family just got up and started searching for baby Lisa. They were hoping that, maybe she wasn't put into her crib properly, maybe she had just gotten out and crawled off and was just somewhere in the house, maybe hiding, something like that. At this point, Jeremy's head was just swimming, so he ran over to the neighbor's house to see if maybe she was there. Maybe Debbie left her there for some reason and didn't realize it. Maybe she thought she put her to bed and didn't. Maybe she drank a little bit more than she thought, whatever it could have been. Now, the neighbors were not home at that point, and of course, Lisa was not there, so every possible scenario was running through their heads at this point, even if it, was kind of ridiculous and didn't really make any sense. He was just trying to make sure he thought of everything and didn't miss a thing. So as they were looking through the house, they were kind of frantically searching around the place. They noticed that one of the screens in the window in their office kind of looked like it had been tampered with. It wasn't unusual for them to leave the windows open to let some air in, but this just kind of looked out of place. So it was at this point that they realized that the worst possible scenario could be what was happening. They thought that maybe someone had gotten in through that screen and had kidnapped Lisa. Now, what was a little bit strange was that when Jeremy went to call 911, he realized that both his and Debbie's cell phones were both missing. So he did have his work phone to call 911, but it was just weird that both of the cell phones had been taken as well, which we will come back to in a little bit. But he did call 911 off of his work phone, and the police showed up shortly and they immediately started their search for Lisa. Inside the house, they found absolutely no sign of her, of course, so they started searching outside of the house. They started searching the neighborhoods, the surrounding neighborhoods. They interviewed a bunch of people, and they even searched the nearby Missouri River to see if maybe she was there for some reason, but they didn't find anything in there. And eventually the media caught wind of the entire story and started reporting that this little baby was missing. This was such a big thing for the community to have to go through. It was not common that little babies like this were just stolen from their crib. Everyone was, in a panic, and everyone just wanted to help. Thousands of people volunteered to help search for Lisa, and they even got the National Guard involved to help for a while because they just couldn't find anything. But even them, they couldn't find anything. They knew that the pressure was on within the first 24 hours because, as we know, for missing children and missing people in general, the first 24 hours is the most vital, but they just didn't find her anywhere. The next day, there was a press conference held where Debbie and Jeremy spoke and made their pleas. They desperately asked for her safe return, and they just seemed completely beside themselves.
I'd like to make a statement, and they will not be answering questions afterward.
On Monday night or Tuesday morning, our daughter Lisa was taken from our home. We just urge anyone that has any kind of information to as to where she is or who she's with or anything, to please call the tips hotline or the police. Anything, even the smallest bit of information could help lead to her return. Anybody that might have her, they can drop her off at any place safe, fire station or hospital or a church. No questions asked. We just want to have her back home.
We just want our baby back. Please, bring her home. Our 2 other boys are waiting for her, please. Just drop her off anywhere. We don't care. Just somewhere safe where she can come home, please.
As police conducted their investigation, Debbie and Jeremy were completely cooperative at first. They let them search their homes, search their computers. They did everything. Police wanted to conduct a private interview with the boys, which Debbie and Jeremy agreed to, and they were willing to help in any possible way that they could. Now, police did not suspect Jeremy because, he was at work when the disappearance happened, and he was able to prove that he was at work, so he was pretty much immediately cleared. But because in so many of these types of cases, the parents are involved, and because Debbie was the last person to see Lisa and she had been drinking that night, they did some pretty heavy interrogation on her. They questioned Debbie for over 12 hours and threw out accusations of her being responsible for this, and they were pretty relentless when they were talking to her. By all accounts, she was understanding of why she was being questioned, because it is protocol, and we know that the parents can be responsible in these types of cases, but she was just getting more and more frustrated because, they were spending so much time questioning her when she thought that they should be out looking for Lisa instead. However, the thing that was a little bit strange was that Debbie's story did change a lot throughout the course of this investigation. Now, at first, Debbie told police that she only had 1 or 2 glasses of wine that night. Then her story changed a little bit and she said that, okay, maybe she had a few more, and then her story changed again to say she had as many as 9 or 10. The next thing that she changed her story about was that at first she said she checked on Lisa at 10:30 that night, right before she went to bed. However, she later changed her story and said that she only checked in on Lisa at 6:30 that night, so pretty much right after she put her to bed. So this was kind of suspicious to police, and they really started to zone in on Lisa. The next thing investigators did was go to the scene and try and reenact someone taking a screen out of this window and trying to crawl through it. During this reenactment, they came to the determination that it was probably too high for someone to get into, and they also found that there was undisturbed dust sitting on the windowsill. They thought that it was unlikely that someone would have been able to crawl through this window, but if someone did crawl through this window, the dust would have been moved or disturbed in some sort of way. So at this point, they really did start looking heavily at Debbie. They just thought it was unlikely that someone had broken into the house. Now, police did ask Debbie to do a polygraph test as well, and she went into it thinking that she was going to easily pass because, she said that she knew that she didn't do it. However, I have seen mixed reports on whether she actually passed this test or not. But I do know that after the test, police really started zoning in on her and kind of yelled at her and told her that she didn't pass the polygraph test and said things like, "You did it, you did this, and, we have nothing," saying that she was a bad mom and saying that she's guilty. Again, I don't know if she actually passed this polygraph test or not because I have seen it reported both ways, and I think they are allowed to lie to her, tell her that she didn't to try and get a certain reaction out of her, but I do want to say that if she didn't pass this polygraph test, I don't think it says that much, because imagine being in that situation. Imagine being so nervous, frantic, scared, and frustrated. Your body chemistry is going to be all out of whack. Plus, we know that polygraph tests aren't all that reliable to begin with, so I'm not trying to say whether I think she's innocent or not, but I think at this point, police really started getting tunnel vision. So of course, after this whole fiasco of the police accusing Debbie of doing something to her daughter, Lisa's parents just stopped cooperating. Originally, Lisa's two brothers had been scheduled for investigators to collect DNA samples from them, but Debbie and Jeremy actually canceled this the night before this was scheduled, and they all together started to deny access of investigators to the boys. So of course at this point they were looking really bad in the public. People didn't know what to think, because as a parent you should be doing whatever you can to try and find your missing child. But at the same time, if you're a parent and you feel like you're being harassed and ridiculed, you might think that police don't actually have your best interests in mind. So on the surface, it probably looked like these parents were looking really bad and weren't trying to do whatever they could to help their child. But at the same time, you can kind of understand that if the police aren't treating you the way that, you feel that you should be treated, I totally understand why they would want to pull out. But still, Lisa's parents were desperate to find Lisa, and they set out a $100,000 reward for any information leading to finding Lisa. So on October 19th, police searched the home once again, and the items removed from the home included a multicolor comforter, multicolored Disney character shirt, purple shorts, a glowworm toy, a Cars-themed blanket, a roll of tape, and a tape dispenser. They also brought cadaver dogs into the search, and the dogs actually did pick up a scent next to the parents' bed on the floor. So this looks pretty bad for Debbie at this point. The cards were really stacking against Debbie, so the public was really starting to think that these parents may have had something to do with it. I mean, they weren't cooperating anymore. Debbie was changing her story, and cadaver dogs picked up a scent next to her bed. It wasn't looking too good. However, Jeremy did appear on the Today Show to let everyone know that they are still talking to police and they're doing everything that they can to bring Lisa home. Now, at this point, everyone was getting increasingly frustrated that there was absolutely nothing coming of this search until police actually started looking into another possible person of interest. Now, two witnesses came forward who claimed to have seen a man walking down the street holding a baby on the night that Lisa went missing. In the first sighting, the witness actually lived just up the street from Lisa's house, and he was getting ready to go to his night shift at work when he noticed a tall, skinny white male walking down the street carrying an underdressed baby. She was underdressed for being outside. It was October, so it was a little chilly to be carrying an underdressed baby in the middle of the night. The witness thought that this was a little bit strange, but he didn't think too much of it until he heard the news later that there was a missing baby. And of course, that's when he reported it. The next witness was a man who was coming home from work, riding his motorcycle in the middle of the night when he too noticed a man with the same description walking down the street with an underdressed baby. This witness actually stopped to talk to the man and told him that he needs to put some clothes on this baby or wrap that baby in a blanket, to which the man refused. He then offered this man a ride, which the man also refused. So he just kind of left as well, not thinking too much of it until he also later saw on the news that there was a missing baby. The next strange thing that happened on the night that Lisa went missing was that just down the street there was actually a dumpster fire, and inside of this dumpster fire there were baby clothes. Yet another weird thing that happened on that same night was in the middle of the night, a gas station surveillance camera actually picked up a video of a random man walking out of a dense forest in the middle of the night. All of these weird, strange things were happening on the same night, so it's not crazy to think that they could all be connected. So using this new information, police stumbled across a homeless man named John Tanko who went by the nickname Jersey. He was known for hanging around the neighborhood where the Irwins lived, and he had a criminal history of doing things like breaking into people's vacation homes when they weren't there and either stealing things or actually living there when the owners were away, and he was actually known for breaking in through windows. Jersey also fits the description of a tall, skinny white male that the witnesses had claimed to see, and the night that Lisa went missing, it turns out that Jersey was only a few minutes down the street from the house. So people started to think that maybe Jersey had been watching the house for a while. waited for Jeremy to leave for the night, knew that Debbie was going to be home alone, maybe even saw her outside drinking that night. So he used this as the perfect opportunity to walk inside the house and rob the house. People think that once he was in the house robbing it, that, maybe he noticed a baby and just decided to kidnap Lisa. This theory was even stronger when they found out that one of the missing phones that belonged to either Debbie or Jeremy was used to call a woman named Megan, who was one of Jersey's on and off again girlfriends. Police took her in for questioning, and she actually told police that she had told Jersey that she wanted a baby. So maybe he went in and abducted a baby to kind of give to her as a weird gift. It was also known that Jersey liked to set fires, which would make sense that there was a dumpster fire right down the street if he were trying to burn Lisa's clothes. It all kind of makes sense that a man who was obsessed with fire, possibly could have taken a baby to give to his girlfriend, went and burned her clothes to get rid of evidence, and then was walking with an underdressed baby after getting rid of these clothes and was seen by all of these witnesses. So because of all this, he was brought in for questioning, and of course he denied having anything to do with Lisa's abduction. So they actually put him in a lineup and brought some witnesses in to come in and identify him. Some of the witnesses did point him out, but other witnesses said that he did not look like the man that they saw. So with these conflicting witness testimonies and any lack of actual evidence, police had no choice but to let him go, and nothing further ever really came of this. Now, in May of 2012, the first possible break in this case came when Debbie and Jeremy reported that their debit card had been used on a website that provides false birth certificates. These websites were confirmed as being real, so there was new hope that maybe Lisa was actually alive. However, I couldn't really find anything further on this, and nothing ever really came of it. Police did say that they are continuing to investigate this and that they hope Lisa is still alive, but that's about it. So the next possible break in this case came in October of 2013 when a little girl was discovered in Greece. Her background is unknown, and the people who said that they were her parents weren't actually her parents, and her DNA was not found in Greece's missing child's database. People really thought that this little girl looked a lot like Lisa. Even Lisa's parents thought that her age progression photo looked a lot like this little girl. So they held out hope that this could be Lisa, and they called the Greek authorities to see if this little girl could possibly be Lisa. However, this little girl was thought to be between the ages of 4 and 6, and at that point, Lisa would only have been 3. So they did do several DNA tests anyways, but they came back as her not being Lisa. Now, I don't know exactly how far that went. I don't know if they found this little girl's real parents or not, but hopefully, closure is coming for another set of parents who may have lost their child, and the parents that were posing to be this little girl's parents are now behind bars. So that is pretty much everything that has happened in this case so far. It's been 7 years since little baby Lisa has gone missing, and her parents are still holding out hope that she's alive out there. They just hope that she's not suffering and that she's okay. I do think that it's very possible that this could be an illegal adoption situation, which honestly is very possible. So really quick, I do kind of want to just go over the two main theories in this case. We pretty much already know what they are, but I do just want to go ahead and summarize them really quickly and kind of go over my thoughts on them. So the first theory is that, of course, Debbie did something to Lisa and then her and Jeremy covered it up. We do know that Debbie had been drinking that night and she lied about how much she was drinking. I do not think that she would have purposely done something to Lisa, but I think it's possible that maybe she was intoxicated and maybe dropped Lisa or something along those lines happened. We do know that the cadaver dogs did pick up a scent next to her bed, so maybe the night that this all happened, she decided to take Lisa into her bed for some baby snuggles or something like that, and maybe Lisa fell off the bed, or maybe Debbie fell asleep and rolled over Lisa when she was in the bed, or something happened to Lisa that way. Maybe she felt guilty, didn't want to go to jail, so she covered it up. Maybe she covered it up because she didn't want her 2 other sons to lose their mother. Again, I do not think that she would have done anything like this on purpose, but it could have been a very tragic accident. However, I do want to say that I think it's very possible that she was lying about how much she was drinking simply because she knew it looked bad. And if she told the truth right away, that police would just automatically blame her. We do know that she changed her story about when she went in and checked on Lisa, but it's very possible that she could have just simply forgot when she went in and checked on Lisa, and that's why her story of when she checked on Lisa changed. If this was just a regular normal night for her, it's very possible that she just didn't check the clock and wasn't really aware of what time it is. These are very realistic possibilities that, maybe she just was going in and checking on Lisa every so often, didn't really think anything of it, didn't want to check the time because, if you think that this is just a normal night and you're not prepared to have to tell someone what time you checked on your daughter, you're probably not going to pay attention to what time it is unless, it's getting really late or something like that. Again, I think that's very possible, and I personally don't know if I think that she could have done this. She looked absolutely devastated in the press conference. So I do know that, she seems genuinely upset, but does she look upset because she feels guilty, or is she distressed over her missing baby? I personally believe that if she accidentally did something to her baby, that she would have come out by now, or that police would have found more evidence. It's been 7 years, and I don't think that a normal, loving, caring mother would be able to keep this whole ruse going on for that long. She seems like a genuine person, and so does Jeremy, so in my opinion, I don't think that she could have done this. Plus, think about the small amount of time that she would have had to cover this up. Let's say something did happen to Lisa, she went to cover it up. One, what would she have done? Where would she have put Lisa in a way that the neighbors wouldn't have heard or seen, or that her 2 sleeping children wouldn't have known? It just doesn't make very much sense to me, and the timeline and the logistics of that just don't really make any sense. The next theory is that someone came in and took her, but more specifically that Jersey came in and took her and sold her in some sort of illegal adoption. We do know that the window screen had been tampered with, and we know that the doors were unlocked. We know that Jersey hung around the neighborhood and had a history of breaking into people's houses so he could go in and rob them. He does fit the description of the 2 separate witnesses, and he is known for setting fires, and there just so happened to be a dumpster fire on the same night that she went missing. Is it possible that he either watched the home or kind of already knew their schedules since he always was, around the area? Maybe he saw Debbie drinking, maybe he saw that she was home alone and either went in through the window or simply walked in through the unlocked door with the intention to rob the house, but then stumbled upon Lisa and decided to kidnap her. Or maybe he knew that the family had a baby and he went in there with the full intention of taking Lisa because, he knew that his girlfriend wanted a baby, or maybe he knew that he could make a lot of money through an illegal adoption. I do think this is very possible, and I think a lot of signs point to it, but I do want to mention that the police did do their reenactment of trying to crawl through the window, and they found that it may have been too high, and they also found that there was that unsettled dust, so it's not likely that someone came through that window. However, I want to challenge that by saying maybe Jersey went to the house, tried to come in through the screen, realized that maybe it was too high or it was too hard to get the screen off, so then he decided to go check the door and it was unlocked, and he realized that the door was unlocked, so he just walked through it. That would explain why the window was tampered with, even though it was unlikely for someone to actually have been able to go through the window. The only other thing that goes against this theory is that the sniffer dogs did pick up a scent next to the bed. However, we do know that these dogs are extremely good at what they do, and they pick up scents extremely well. But it's always possible that they picked up a scent from something else, like a spilled diaper or something like that. So we don't know 100% whether this was completely accurate, but it does look pretty bad, so I will give it that. But out of both of these theories, I definitely think that this one is a lot more likely. It's been 7 years, and this little girl could be anywhere right now. We've all heard of those cases before where children were kidnapped, then discovered years and years and years later. Sometimes these kids grow up not even knowing that they're a missing person and then find out that they were missing all along when they're adults. It's also possible that she's not even in this country anymore. I do think that it's more likely of her being taken and then never being found rather than Lisa, doing something to her and then covering it up. I think it's very possible that Lisa could be somewhere in this country. She just doesn't know she is a missing person. You know, she's only 7 years old at this point, so it's not unlikely that she just doesn't know. Or she could very possibly be in another country and, you know, is never thought anything of it because she couldn't remember that she was taken. She was taken when she was a little baby, so there's no way that she could know if she's with some strange parents. So at this point, I do genuinely believe that she is out there somewhere just waiting to be found. I just hope that she's not suffering and is out there at least being raised properly. I think the best thing that we can do is to spread her photo around in hopes that someone will see her, someone will recognize her, or maybe she'll even see a photo of herself and realize that she's a missing person. Lisa's parents have been in contact with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and have released an age progression photo of what Lisa might look like right now. Lisa Irwin had blue eyes and golden blonde hair. At this point, she would be 7 years old. If you have absolutely any information regarding Lisa Irwin, you can send an anonymous tip to 816-474-8477. Again, all tips are completely anonymous. Her website is www.findlisairwin.com if you would like more information on her case and who to contact. The phone number and website will be listed in the description below. So that is it for today's video. Thank you for listening to Lisa's story. And again, if you have absolutely any information about Lisa at all, again, all of that information is listed in the description. So if you did like this video, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I put out new true crime and mystery videos every single week. Don't forget to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Both will be linked in the description box below. If you have any other case suggestions, please just shoot me an email at RachelShannonCases@gmail.com. As of right now, most of the cases that I've been covering are all suggestions from you guys, including today's case, so I really appreciate you guys emailing me with these suggestions. With that, I hope you guys all have a great week, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!